Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you. And I just want to start by saying we had such a delightful visit to all of your communities, and thank you for taking the time to do that. We hope that the delegation that we brought from KDE and the folks that came along from the U.S. Department of Ed and from FEMA weren't too much of a disruption to you. We know that all of you are super busy, and several of you are still working on getting your schools open. So we try not to be in your hair too much, but we did really think it was important for us to see firsthand the things that you were contending with and dealing with, and also connect you with some of the supports that we'll be able to provide from KDE after the legislation. We're going to talk some more about the specifics of that a little later. Also connect you with folks from US Ed and from Kentucky Emergency Management and from FEMA, because we know that you'll be working with them going forward, trying to recoup some of the losses to your budgets that you've had so far, and working to get your communities back to 100%. And also to keep raising up in the public's eye and with the media that this is not over with Eastern Kentucky, that this is going to be a long process of recovery. Some of you, depending on the impact on your community, of course, you've been able to make more progress than others. But overall, I think our big takeaways were that the photographs and videos that people have seen do not do justice to the level of damage in your communities. And so to see that firsthand was really something. And also in every community that we saw, the amount of progress that we've seen toward restoring school services has also been extraordinary. Just in a few weeks here, how far you've come has really been amazing. So we wanted to make sure that we were telling those stories. We'll start with just check-ins from our impacted districts. So please feel free to pop on and just update us on any changes to your community. If you're in school, how that's going, other changes or shifts that have happened in your facilities or in your community that we need to know about. If you've been able to settle on start times, I know several of the districts that are flood impacted are already back in or have plans to do so. Others, you're still contending with some systems damages in your community that are impacting that and leaving it a bit of a question mark. But I know that you're working towards start times. But let's just start with check-ins from districts on where things are today. And again, a lot of us were there visiting you, so we heard it firsthand. But we also have a lot of people who tune in just to this Huddle call to check in and hear what's going on in your district. So it's an opportunity to sort of update everyone, including the state and national media, on where things are in your communities. So could someone start us off?
Commissioner, I'd be happy to.
Thanks so much, Denise.
Since your visit, we have met together and we've set a start date for school. We still have some obstacles to overcome, but we're looking at starting in Letcher County on September 21st. And just as this meeting started, I got a text from one of our partners that are working on the sewer issue, and he said he had good news for me. So I think that hopefully the 21st will work for us. So things are improving.
That's amazing news, Denise. So good progress. I know that was the main issue that had you worried about when you were going to be able to start. So we're hoping that you'll have confirmation of that good news once you're able to talk to that person.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Others?
Commissioner, Brent over in Knott County. Since your visit, we met with the project manager and the architect. Looks like we're good to go still on September 19th. We feel we were probably 75% confident. Now we're 95% confident, barring any unforeseen circumstances. All the challenges have been removed and or met.
Excellent. That's great news and progress just in the past couple of days, Brent. And driving through, Denise, your community, and then going into Knott County. And Brent, thanks for driving us up Troublesome Creek. That was really eye-opening to see the extent of the damage. So, but we're excited to hear about that progress.
Commissioner, this is Jonathan Jett, Perry County. Appreciate y'all taking time to come up and spend some time with our folks. And we feel very confident we're ready to go for Buckhorn and Robinson on Tuesday. Just some finishing touches there. We've got all the classrooms waxed and buffed and moving furniture back in. And then we'll do the hallways and be ready to go Tuesday. So we're excited.
That's extraordinary, John. We really appreciate getting to meet you and your staff and see what was happening. We've described the activity at the school as it looked like watching a beehive with everybody in there working. So it's great. So far, great news from everybody. Others.
This is Anna from Floyd County, and we're in day 7 with students, and we still have 31 students that's being bused from the Jenny Wiley State Park to our schools, and we have 9 staff members that are still displaced. But school's going great. We're so thankful to get our students back because we've been able to help families more by having them back in the building, because sometimes people are prideful and they don't tell you some needs that they have, but students many times will let you know that. So we've been able to better service families and our students by having them back in the school.
That's excellent news, Anna. Thank you.
Commissioner Glass, Damian Johnson, Jenkins Independent. We appreciate so much everyone coming down and seeing what everyone's going through. I thought it was a great visit, and like I said, it was very appreciated that everyone showed a concern for what we're all going through. We should have contractors in on the 6th to begin removing the mastic glue. I'm hoping that can be done that week, and if so, it'll probably take us a couple of days into the next week to get our classrooms back in order. So we're hoping that by maybe the middle of the week of the 12th, or at the absolute latest, the 19th, we will be back in session.
Thanks, Damian. It was a great visit to your school, and I think it shows just kind of the stuff that you have to get into that most people wouldn't think of after a flood. So after you've gotten all the mud out, after you've gotten the water out, we know that you lost that one preschool section that will have to be rebuilt. But the problem, for those that don't know, that Damian's dealing with is when they took the floor up, it left this sort of really sticky glue substance that now they have to get off out of the whole building. So that's what he's having to contend with right now, and it's good to hear that you're making progress on that, Damian.
I'd like to give a shout out to Bo Matthews with Berrien County. He came down yesterday. I know he visited with Denise and brought them some much needed buses, and he came and brought us furniture to furnish our preschool classroom. So very appreciative of his support.
Thanks, Damian. It's another great example of districts across the state banding together to support each other. Great stories. Thank you. Others?
Commissioner Glass, Wayne Sizemore, Jackson Independent Schools. We're in day 12, so extremely excited to continue that process. Of course, we've been dealing with some COVID issues and some sickness, but our attendance continues to increase over the last couple of days, so we're really excited about that. We appreciate you and your team coming to our district. I know it was a pretty crazy time because it was at the end of school, so but that's a great thing because of all the students that are coming in the dismissal process. But we appreciate you. I do want to give just one thank you to McCracken County Schools. Superintendent Carter and his group donated desks, and we actually were holding those desks for individuals need that. And Jonathan, I know that you've got a set of desks coming for A.B. Combs with for Buckhorn. I'm sorry about that, but you've got those coming your way. And Denise will be coming your way tonight for a soccer game. It's going to be exciting. So we'll see you guys at Letcher County Central tonight.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it, man.
Oops. Thanks, Wayne. We were hustling to get out of Jackson Independent before dismissal, and everybody knows that is like it's like trying to be in the middle of LaGuardia Airport or something during dismissal. So we made it, though. We made it out in time, and we were also able to look down the hill and see up in one of the hollers how far the water got in Jackson, which was really stunning, and to be able to look over and see the Career Technical Center where those students are moving with the support of Hazard Career Technical College. So we're really grateful for that partnership. Great. Any other superintendents with updates?
This is Philip from Breathitt. Just thank you guys for the visit yesterday. I'm actually in the truck at Walmart. We just brought 100 more kids shopping, so we're doing our back to school shopping. We did 100 last week, 100 this week, and we've got several more scheduled for next week. Couldn't say thank you to enough. I can't leave everybody out. I really enjoyed our visit yesterday from Valerie and Joy, the FEMA officials, FEMA ladies. They were awesome. Looking forward to working with them. This is our, today's Thursday, fourth day of school. So we're just excited to be back. We've got a big no-show list and just trying to track everybody down and deal with COVID and try to get back to normal as humanly possible, but just like to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Philip. It was extraordinary to see the progress that your schools and community had made, as well as the whole high school campus really impacted to some degree in that whole area where the school sits. And we learned a lot about some of the long-term plans for the ATC, for Breathitt and for Jackson, and excited about what the future may hold for that. Philip did a great job speaking with numerous media outlets. He was super nervous about that, but he was a rock star, and you're born for it, Philip. So you did a great job with that.
Best comment was from Dr. Young. I've got a face for radio.
Yeah. Right. And maybe the low light of the visit was that we visited the field house where the sports teams are, and there's an odor there that's not related to the floods. It's something else. It was powerful. We couldn't stay very long, but great progress in Breathitt County.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other superintendents with changes or updates? Okay, hearing none. Valoria, I see you have your hand up. Is there something you'd like to contribute?
Yes, please. Just for a minute, just before we came on, I got a phone call, and the question was specifically towards Buckhorn School, John. They're wanting to know, and I'm reading because what I wrote here, is ServPro doing your debris removal?
They are, yes.
Okay, all righty. With any contractor that's doing, for all of you guys, the concern with the contractors rather than, and I want to make sure I get the acronym right, KYTC, the concern with that is make sure that they are thoroughly documenting that as they separate the piles, that they're taking pictures, that they're documenting, like, is it trees and limbs? Is it debris from structural debris? Is it desks and chairs? They need to separate those things out and say exactly what they're taking. And then the other part is, we call it cradle to grave. They need to say exactly where they took it, and we need an address, because we're going to have to GPS that, and that's how you're going to get reimbursed from FEMA. And their documentation needs to say, we took this many cubic yards of this type of debris. We took this many cubic yards of that type of debris. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so just make sure that with ServPro or with anyone else that that they are actually documenting, because you're going to need that documentation later.
Thank you, Valoria. We'll have time a little later also for some other updates from Valoria, who also accompanied us on our trip. Let's shift now to Tony. Tony and her communications team worked throughout the 2-day visit to publish the stories on Kentucky Teacher about our visit and some of the things we experienced and saw. So, and I think that was, again, one of the main points of our visit was to keep raising up in the consciousness of people around the state and around the country, what's still happening in Eastern Kentucky, and also the tremendous progress that you made. So, Tony, what can districts expect in terms of communication, or what should they be working on going forward?
Yeah, so really just wanted to really give an opportunity to brag on each of these districts for the last 2 days we were really packed, and it was very tight schedule, and just what a phenomenal time that we had. I know many of you are taking additional time to do these media interviews, and I really think it's really important. And so I really appreciate that when I reach out or when they reach out to you, that you all are able to make those happen, because I think that that's going to help keep our stories and the message of what's going on in your counties very relevant and very timely. I think just yesterday, NBC News had posted their story. I thought, I know they spoke with Denise and several others, and I think I think that's just really helpful for them to continue to get those updates. If somebody from my team can put the links that are on this slide in the chat. I'm only operating with one computer screen today because I'm still working my way back to Frankfurt. So, and then I just wanted to share some photos, because I know many of you all, we may have some superintendents that are not, that are joining us that have not been out to Eastern Kentucky yet. This was from day one, and these are Letcher County, Jenkins Independent, and Knott County photos. Valoria had mentioned the Serve Pro, and when I think of Serve Pro now, I think of that bottom left photo with all of the ventilation coming out. That was at the, I believe that was at the middle school, and just the context of everything. The top right is that preschool room that we were talking about in Jenkins, that had been completely, ready for redone and ready for the first day of school, and then the flooding happened. So really impactful to see some of these things. And also, another thing that stuck with me, we had the U.S. Department of Education there in the middle. Here is the playground stuff. So things that you think of that, may not be those things inside of a building, but that were really important to kids, so that they can kind of, get all that normalcy back. And just losing all of the playground equipment and not being able to find it was really just touched home with me on that as well. So day 2, real quick, we went to, oops, wrong one. Sorry, I've got to remember. We were in Perry County, Hazard, and Breathitt County, and also Jackson Independent. Jason described that correctly. It was like a beehive at AB Combs. It was amazing. I took lots of little videos. We're hoping to put something together today that really shows if somebody wasn't painting or taping or moving in desks or waxing floors, somebody else was counting books and, getting folders ready. And so it was just really an amazing to see all of the work that's being put in there. And then just talking with staff, Superintendent Combs up in Hazard, and, Superintendent Watts, and also, everybody else. I don't want to leave anybody out, but just an incredible time for us to go. So just wanted to share those with you, and we'll get those links. It'll be in your email today when we send out our recap. But really, just if you have a chance to share those stories in your networks, and then let me know if you have other ideas. We have more plans, obviously, for more publications, but I just wanted to let you see some of those pictures. Oh, and then I think Valoria was going to come. I might have switched these out. So we're going to go from there. I'm going to toss off to Valoria, and then she wanted to talk a little bit about the visits as well. And this is her slide.
Oops, Valoria, are you still on?
Yep,
Oh.
I am here. Yesterday, I think I became more vested in this whole community than I ever have been since in the 2 weeks that I've been here. And I think that's because I got to actually get out and break bread and, shake hands and talk to. And I'm sure that by time October comes, I'll be referring to everybody rather than superintendent such and such, my friend, this person, because I'm definitely vested in your success, invested in your recovery, and just really, really will dig in to make sure that I do all that I can to make it happen. And that was my takeaway from yesterday.
Okay, Valoria, do you have other updates other than, I know you started off with that reminder about, yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think she had the briefing, so I'll leave that one up there.
Sorry, having problems with my mic this morning. The briefing today, of course, all of you guys know that it is at 1:30 today. It is a requirement that goes along with your application for public assistance to attend the briefing. Now, let me tell you why that is. It is really important, not just for this disaster, for any disaster that may come up in the future, that you know the FEMA process and that you know the steps that are involved. If something happens to where you don't have major damage, but you do have some things that you need to submit for reimbursement for. For those of you that are paying a consultant, you may not need a consultant next time because you're going to be familiar with what the process is yourself. So this is FEMA's way of two things. First of all, letting you know ahead of time, step by step, what to expect. Explaining some of the FEMA, what we call FEMA-ese, the FEMA verbiage, so that you understand that when we're talking about these processes, exactly what they mean. So it is important that you do attend the briefing. I will be sending you additional information, whether there's a consultant there or not, because of course my job is always to make sure that you're okay, that your deadlines are met, and that your documentation is solid. So, but even with all of that help, you got to know what's going on yourself. And that is what this briefing is going to be about today. It is going to be the full briefing. It is going to be the full briefing. And the reason we decided to do that is just so that the message is clear across the board, that nobody gets a little bit of information from here and a little bit of information from there, that everybody gets consistent information across the board. So the first thing that you'll be listening to is the briefing, the recorded briefing, the same one that was given on Friday. But what comes different for you guys is what I'd like for you to do, use the chat as the briefing is going on, use the chat, send me questions, and then once it's over, then I will answer your questions. That's it.
All right. Thanks very much, Valoria. We appreciated you coming along with us too and being part of that experience. And I look forward to working with you more going forward. Now we'll shift to the results of the special session that just concluded. Lieutenant Governor Coleman is on with us, and of course the governor's office was instrumental in structuring the special session and working in advance on some of the language that ultimately was passed. So we're appreciative to the Lieutenant Governor and to the members of the General Assembly for coming together so quickly and putting together this aid package. Lieutenant Governor, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to say to this group, just as we're going to get into some of the details of what specifically was passed in support of schools, but wanted to give you an opportunity to be heard.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's great to see you all. I can tell you that since I saw you last, all of you sound a little bit more upbeat, and I know it's because school has either started or is starting, and you know that laying eyes on those kids changes everything for them. So thank you for that. I believe I'm heading back your way next week, so I should be in the area at some point, and obviously would love to see you. But as far as the special session goes, I really hope that, and I believe that for the most part, your all's voices were heard, and we got a good piece of legislation through in a special session that could at least tide us over until the regular session, when obviously more will be needed and more should be done. And so I know Governor Beshear called the special session, set the parameters, worked really well across the aisle with the legislature and the legislative leadership to kind of craft out something that they felt was good enough to bridge us to the regular session. So I hope that you feel that. As time goes on, we learn more and more. And even though this is a tragedy like we had in Western Kentucky, the terrain, the experience, all of the things are different. And so I really want to make sure that your voices are heard, and that we are doing what you need us to do. And so if at any point you feel like that's not happening, most of you know me and you've reached out to me already, but please do, because I want to make sure that we're there for you when you need us. And actually, I've got an op-ed coming out, I think after Labor Day, and it's about you guys. So I left all the bad things out for the right price. So you guys let me know about that. But it's really about how, I'm kidding, obviously, but it's really about how in West Kentucky and East Kentucky, in our time of need, our schools and our school employees were there, just like they always are every day. It's just that now the community knows it. And so as we're going back to school, just a little reminder to everyone to remember that. So be looking for that. I'm trying to uplift our you guys and the work that you do every day, because I think that's important. So that said, I'll let Dr. Glass, I'll let you all get into the details of everything, because I think that's important too.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. We appreciate you being here and all that you've done throughout this crisis. Let's turn now to Robin Kinney, and I think we've got Brian Perry on as well, our Director of Governmental Relations, and Robin Morley, who's been supporting all of you throughout this, to go over what's in HB1. Robin and Brian, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor Coleman, for your words of support on behalf of our school districts. I also want to express my appreciation to the governor's office and Budget Director John Hicks, who worked very closely with us as we were communicating needs of our districts and drafting and looking at language and being very, very supportive of things that we were hearing directly from you that you needed. Before we jump into House Bill 1, I promised the folks at Emergency Management that I would just do a little bit of housekeeping. And this is about things that are coming in to support your districts. Donations are still flooding. Offers of donations are still flooding in. We will be updating our resource page that we've provided to you before, so be looking for that. We'll be adding some things, but they are really getting lots of requests to provide donations in the form of library books. So we are hearing everything from a couple of boxes. The National Guard out of Lexington delivered a couple of boxes, but we are hearing of people that want to deliver busloads of books. So we need to kind of hear from you, and it doesn't need to be right now. Maybe you can put some information in the chat, or you can send either Robin Morley or I an email. But we have a lot of interest in making sure that our kids have the resources they need to read and to enjoy learning through reading. So if you have needs in that area, please let us know either through the chat or reach out to us, and we'll help to coordinate that. But we promised the Emergency Management we would specifically make that request about library books. If we can go to the first slide, please, and
Hey,
we'll
Robin.
start. Yes,
Robin,
Tony.
just one quick, I was going to ask one quick, I forgot to mention this. Speaking of books, the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library has donated 15,000 books to your districts, and they have been delivered to KVAC. And so we were able yesterday to give some of those out in Hazard Independence, but you'll be getting some information out working with Johnny and Jerry down there to get those to you. I think Perry County has theirs and Hazard has theirs, but they're, you know, obviously the early elementary age, but I just wanted to let you know that those are available to you. They were donated to the Kentucky State Police, who in turn worked with us to get them to you. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. Thank you, Robin. I apologize.
Thank you, Tony. Just it shows the continuing interest in wanting to make books available for all of our students and our staff. If we can go to the first slide, please. We're going to talk a little bit today about House Bill 1. This is from the special session that just concluded. Many, many, many thanks to the General Assembly and to the governor and all the folks that worked on trying to put together the assistance to really support local school districts. We're going to talk about various funding opportunities that are available through House Bill 1, where those funding opportunities sort of live and will be administered, And we're also going to talk about sort of operational relief that has provided through House Bill 1. And Jesse Carlton from the Division of District Support Services is going to help with the operational things. So if you have questions, you can raise your hand, or you can of course use the chat feature. But there were 3 basic appropriations that are available to Eastern Kentucky districts. I'll also try to clarify as we walk through here, because there's some additional things in here for our Western Kentucky counties as well. But we're going to have a separate webcast to kind of update them a little bit. But this is for Eastern Kentucky districts only that we're looking at today. So the first pot of money resides at the Division of Emergency Management. This is a $75 million appropriation that is there. And you can see up on the screen the eligible expenses. It must be related to the flooding disaster. The eligible expenses are a little bit broader in nature than you'll see that in the appropriation that has come directly to the Department of Education. So determinations on eligibility and reimbursement from this pot of money will be made by the Division of Emergency Management. And I'm not going to read on here, but you can see the types of things that are available. On the county call, Robin Morley and I participate in a county call every morning at 10 o'clock. And on that county call, they talked about the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund, which is what this falls under. And one of the things that is probably important to note, that the federal cost share match that is required when you receive, if you get FEMA reimbursement, is eligible to come out of this pot. So your share that you would be paying if it falls into one of these eligible categories. It's important to note that no new construction can be funded with the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund if that construction is contemplated to be in a 100-year floodplain. So that's a prohibition of the Eastern Kentucky Safe funding. It is important that you have filed a timely application for your applicable reimbursement of either FEMA or insurance. So some of you got frantic calls and emails from me and Robin Morley over the last couple of weeks saying, please, please, please register. Because if you are not registered with FEMA, then you're going to miss out on any opportunity to also look toward the East Kentucky Safe Fund in order to seek reimbursement if FEMA or your insurance proceeds or anything do not cover that expense. So this is sort of, you look at insurance first, then FEMA, or FEMA and insurance kind of together, and then this becomes sort of the gap funding. So it's to kind of help you make up the difference. The funds do carry forward until June 30th of 2024. And out of this pot, this is non-exclusive to local school districts as applicants. So this is available to all the public entities, cities, counties, publicly owned utility companies. So school districts will not be the only eligible applicants from this round of funding. We have included at the bottom a munis code. As soon as the bill was passed, I started getting a flurry of phone calls from your finance officers. I need a munis code. So here's the munis code on here. We will also send this out to our finance officers as well, so they'll be aware of it. This being administered by emergency management, the application process for this will go to emergency management. If you have already registered for public assistance, you should have already received a notification from Kentucky Emergency Management informing you that the application is available and there should be instructions on how to complete it. So if you have not received that, if you will please let us know, and we'll coordinate with emergency management to make sure that you have that application. I see someone's hand is up, but I can't see who is trying to ask a question.
That's Robin Morley.
Okay. Well, let me guess. My partner. Go ahead, Robin.
Robin, one thing that may not have made it into our slide deck, and I'm not sure, is late Friday, you and I learned that FEMA has extended that deadline for registration. The item you've got as the fourth bullet here, I'm sorry, yeah, the timely application. FEMA has extended that period of registration for a period of 30 additional days. So if some districts were not able to get registered, or now they understand the connection with the East Kentucky Safe Fund and want to go register with FEMA, that window is still open to do that.
Thank you, Robin. That's important for people to know if you haven't already registered. And Valoria, who is on earlier, you can send a request to her and she'll tell you the exact deadline, because every 30 day does not run from the same point in time, since we've added districts over time during the disaster. But Valoria should be able to tell you what that end date is for you. But it is still open right now. So if you have, I would actually encourage you, register. You don't know if you're going to need something later. Go ahead and register. It's a very short process, takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And Valoria did a great job actually advising and counseling KDE, because we are an applicant as well. She walked us through the process, and it was fairly painless. So please register if you haven't already. Okay, next slide, please. So that was our first pot of money that is available. Here's our second. So the second pot of money is $40 million. Again, it's going to be administered by Military Affairs, the Division of Emergency Management. This is to provide advancement of monies to cities, counties, school districts, and public utilities experiencing strained fiscal liquidity. So we've had some conversations with some of you about, you are expending dollars, you are awaiting for that return of either insurance proceeds or FEMA reimbursement, and you're concerned because you're going to start doing payroll, your taxes haven't come in, that's later in the beginning of the school year. So there's been a concern expressed about just fiscal liquidity. So this pot of money is at Military Affairs to help support this purpose. It will be an advancement for our school districts. And for this pot of money, KDE will actually make the determination of whether a district meets the needs of basically showing strained fiscal liquidity. And I know your next question is how are we going to do that? How are we going to show you that we have strained fiscal liquidity? We are working right now on a template that we hope that you will be able to just fill out. We'll ask for you to give us some information, and we're hoping that we can locate a Munis report that would make it very easy for you to pull in order to show that. This advancement of funds is not to pay your disaster expenses. It's really intended to help you pay your regular other operating costs that are being constrained because you're spending that money that you would usually have, you're spending it on trying to get your damages taken care of. It is important, again, that you retain documentation of your timely application for FEMA, other insurance. And this will work almost like a revolving loan fund. If you can think about this, this is an advancement. So it comes to you, and then if you get disaster assistance or insurance proceeds that helps you meet and get you back into a good place with your fiscal liquidity, then you reimburse the Commonwealth. You may have strained fiscal liquidity over a period of time. You may need an advancement now, and then you may need a request for an advancement later. That's okay. You can do multiple requests for fiscal liquidity. I think I have shared everything on that. We also have the Munis code at the bottom for your finance officers. If you are a district that are right now, you are experiencing strained fiscal liquidity right now, please contact me or Robin Morley directly, and we'll start talking to you about putting together your information to request this advancement from the Division of Emergency Management. Okay, next slide, please. Here's the third pot of money. This is $40 million to the Department of Education to provide financial assistance to our flood impacted districts. This looks very similar to the Western Kentucky relief, the funding that was provided to Western Kentucky. This funding comes directly to the Department of Education, and the Department of Education will be making those determinations and approval of your request for eligible expenses in this from this pot of money. There are 3 broad categories, but within each category, but we only have 3 that we can reimburse you for. The first one is wraparound services for school children and their families. So this does extend to help your families as well as your students. And it's to help them recover from the impact of the storms and flooding. The bill itself, and I encourage everyone to go out and get a copy of the bill and have it close to you. You can include after-school services, mental health counseling services for students and their families, out-of-school tutoring, and then it has other services to advance the scholastic progress of students. So we think broadly on that. It does have to be as a result of the flooding, but I know in the Western Kentucky tornadoes, we had lots of creative but perfectly eligible and acceptable services that we did approve. The second category from KDE's pod is assisting districts in addressing additional transportation costs. This is to provide, the bill itself says transportation to students that are displaced from their district or county. And then finally, there is language here about building repairs. Building repairs and renovations are also eligible from the first pot we talked about, the $75 million from EMS. But we also here at KDE from our pot of money can also look at building repairs. You are required to reimburse this fund for insurance proceeds. So if you get anything from FEMA or from insurance, then you would pay this back. This will be administered through the School Facilities Construction Commission, just like all building projects that we typically deal with. The way this will work is KDE will transfer funds based upon your application to SFCC, and then they will administer that. There is carry forward language in for this pot of money as well, and the Munis code is at the bottom. I see someone else with their hand up. Let me stop there for just a minute.
Thanks, Robin. That's me.
Okay.
So I think a point based on our experience in Eastern Kentucky, and then a question for you, the point being that we heard from superintendents and people in all of these impacted communities that not only are the school staff working to support students in the communities, they're also directly impacted by this devastation themselves personally. So they're members of these communities that are impacted as well. And we know that several of them are sort of putting their own needs on the back burner so that they can serve the students and put their professional responsibilities first. But there's going to come a time at some point in the future where all of that's going to come rushing back together. The grieving process is going to catch up with people. And so I raised that up in this pot of funds that you just talked about, that superintendents may want to consider some things for the staff and how they can support them or create a space and time and resources for them to process through some of their own personal losses and experiences and trauma that they have. So that's my statement, or just something for y'all to be thinking about that this pot of funds potentially could be used for. My question, Robin, is thinking back about the Western Kentucky, how some of these funds were used out of some of the districts, a couple of them are on here with us now. What were some of the ideas that you saw come forward from Western Kentucky districts that our Eastern Kentucky districts may think about?
Is that directed to our Western Kentucky friends? Do we have Western Kentucky friends on here?
Either and or. So either things that you saw come through, or if we have, I know we have Rob Clayton on. I'm not sure who else from Western Kentucky that's able to talk about some of the things that they did with this source of funds previously. Or you, Robin.
Well, we saw lots of after-school activities. I think if you wanted to do something, an activity as you welcome your students back, that, embraces your students. I know a lot of you have already started school, but if you wanted to do a back to school activity to have all the kids together, promoting their social and emotional wellness, getting to see each other again. We saw some of that happening. Lots of after school assistance. We know that a lot of your families will need that extra time that they meet with FEMA, or they're meeting with their insurance adjuster, or they're meeting with attorneys or whoever. So activities that you could plan to support those parents and families taking care of their students, whether that be after school, it could be on the weekends, whatever you're looking at, as far as time to just provide additional relief to your parents. Probably the Western Kentucky districts are better to address some of this and how they looked at it. But we have taken the view of interpreting that as broadly as we can. If you have a good idea, we'll try to support it with this funding.
Thank you, Robin. And I saw Rob Clayton pop in before. It looks like he's not on now, and Lenny's not with us today either. But we may want to reach out to them, Robin Morley, see if we can reach out to them or look through what we've approved to give a list of sort of some starter ideas to our Eastern Kentucky districts or things they might consider and think about. And I know that in our visits, some of you that weren't in school yet, you were thinking about what are some ways that you could keep your communities connected to each other. You mentioned football games was a great opportunity for people to get together. So this could be an opportunity for you to fund some other things, some more of the reasons to get the community connected and keep it cohesive during this time when you're still not able to get school open. Thank you, Robin.
Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? So now I'm going to turn it over to Jessie Carlton. Jessie is our Assistant Director in the Division of District Support Services, and she's going to walk us through the operational relief, things that are available to you as a result of House Bill 1 that hopefully will make your operations a little bit easier as you continue to navigate and address the flooding issue. Jessie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Robin. Good afternoon, everybody. Like Robin said, I'm going to speak specifically to kind of instructional minutes and average daily attendance and some of the other aspects that were in the bill that you'll have be able to use. First, we're going to talk about the fact that the bill allows the commissioner to waive up to 15 student attendance days district-wide through January 20th, 2023. We've already had several calls about people asking, how to code, what are we going to do, how do I need to request these days? The first thing I'd like to say about these days is that one of the good things about the calendar is it's very forgiving. And so we can take our time with this, and this is something that we don't have to stress about a lot because we can always fix this. As you know, your amended calendar will not come to KDE until like April or May of next year. So if your DPP or anybody else has questions after this, have them reach out to me. We'll walk through how to code the days exactly in campus and how to use them the best. But the main thing is these don't have to be requested right this minute. You have until January 20th to use any of these days. I know a lot of districts have pushed their start date. That would be a good place to use some of these days. They are actually going to be coded in the system as a disaster day. So when you go to code the days, that's where they'll be in Infinite Campus. The commissioner can waive up to 15 of these days. You may load them all at the beginning. You may want to hold on to them to see if there's some other flood related day later in the year. We can't exactly figure out in our mind what that could be, but it's still an option. So once you request the days of the commissioner, you'll have to outline exactly which days you're requesting. Those will be put on your calendar. They will generate whatever instructional time you have in your calendar for that day. It also gives the classified and certified staff credit for that contract day. Okay. As always, there's also the option to waive additional days for individual schools. Those are our emergency days. If something, if you can get most people going in the district, but you still have a couple of single schools that you need extra days for. Those are those emergency days that are also requested via letter to the commissioner. Let's see, what I was thinking about these days is what you're going to have is if you request and are granted all 15 days at the beginning of your calendar, what that'll kind of look like is you'll have 15 disaster days followed by your opening day, which you have to have in your calendar, and then your first student attendance day. So that's kind of, if you load them all at the front, that's what that'll look like. Like I said, if that's kind of, we can walk through that, or we can always fix that, because after these are granted, then is when you will take that to your local board, approve the amended calendar, and then that won't come to us until April or May. Okay. Additionally, that local board can grant full or part-time employees emergency leave as necessary through January 20th. There was another aspect of the bill talking about remote instruction, and that the superintendent with the board authorization, you can assign either a school, grade, classroom, or group to remote instruction for up to 20 days through January 20th. If you'll remember last year, this is very similar, almost exactly just like what we called temporary remote instruction days last year for the second semester during COVID. You can take those small groups of students and have them on remote instruction. Those are temporary remote instruction days. They're coded in Infinite Campus as TRI days. We had guidance on that up on our website. We pulled it down because they were no longer allowed. This bill has granted them back to your district. So we are working on guidance to put that back out to show exactly how to code that and what is required for those temporary remote instruction days, if those need to be used. Next slide, please. Okay, so any district, any of your Eastern Kentucky flood impacted districts can revise the calendar, and you are just looking now at your 1,062 hours, and that's going to be way less any of that waived instructional time for those disaster days. So those disaster days, whether your calendar is set up for a 6-hour day, 7-hour day, that's what's going to be granted towards your total 1,062 hours. As always, you can at any point in time add time to the day, but that time cannot exceed 7 hours. There is part of the bill that says a plan must be submitted to KDE regarding your instructional time. There's nothing that needs to be done different than normal. We will use your amended calendar as that report to show the instructional time you've reported to us. There's an aspect of the bill that talks about local board may modify that your DFP without convening your LPC. This is similar to, if you'll remember back in 2019, Senate Bill 1 dealt with school security, and the way you all kind of use that bill, it's going to be the same here. Your modification can identify these construction or repair projects and move those to the highest priority on your DFP. Okay, next slide. Okay, this part of the bill actually touches Eastern Kentucky and Western Kentucky disaster districts. It is talking about loss of ADA. So as we know, we have all gone back in this 22-23 school year to tracking attendance, and districts will submit a SAR report at the end of this year, which generates your ADA that generates your funding. So there's always been a law in place talking about a decrease in ADA of 10% or more, and how the district will kind of get part of that back if there's a big drop. For your all's disaster impacted districts, that has actually been dropped to 3%. So what's going to happen is when you file your SAR at the end of the year, if there is an ADA decrease of 3% or more when compared to the 18-19 ADA, what's going to happen is 2/3 of that ADA decrease will be added back into your ADA that you'll receive your funding based on for 23-24. Then if in the next year your ADA decrease either remains the same or you have a little bit more of a decrease, you'll get 1/3 of that decrease back in your 24-25 funding. So I hope that's clear. If not, feel free to reach out to me and we'll kind of step through it. But what you're mainly looking at is at the end of this year, you're going to look at that ADA for 22-23, what you've been being paid on from 18-19, and that's what you're going to look for, that 3% decrease. Next slide, please. I think that is all of my tracking down in the weeds. Robin, I think I'm coming back to you now.
It is. Thank you, Jesse. And you'll
No problem.
see by that last slide, I completely botched the question that was on our last superintendent huddle about the concerns about ADA, which is why I invited Jesse on to kind of step us through that. But I know both in Eastern and Western Kentucky, we've heard concerns about loss in ADA directly related to the flooding or the tornadoes. And so the General Assembly has provided this level of relief, looking at that 3% loss in ADA, which is significantly less than what is currently in statute, and that's a 10% loss. So thank you, Jesse, for coming on and straighten us out on that. But if people have further questions on that, we'll be happy to talk to you individually about that.
Robin, if I might interject just quickly,
Mhm.
I'm going to need to hop over on a media call at 12:30. So I hope that you and perhaps Tony can preside over the rest of this meeting to completion and answer any questions that come up. If there are some that we are not able to answer, of course, we can take note of those and follow up. And then I think we need to conclude with, are we going to continue having the huddle next week? I think the answer to that is probably yes, as we continue to sort through these supports, but that's a question to resolve with affected superintendents as well. But I'll hop off and turn things back to you, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll be glad to take care of it. We're actually on the last slide for our presentation, and this is, I've provided this. It is only, if we'll go back one slide, not to the questions, but the slide immediately preceding. Thank you, thank you. So the last slide I've included is only available right now. This relief is only available to Western Kentucky districts, but I wanted to share this with our Eastern Kentucky districts today because this is about lost revenue. And I know that a lot of our districts, East and West, are again concerned with the lost revenue that will result as of the disasters, including lowered property tax assessments, lower occupational or lower utility taxes being generated. And so the Western Kentucky team has done a really good job, our districts there, in trying to educate our legislators about how this really is a long-term challenge for our school districts. So in what they did in House Bill 1, they went back into the Western Kentucky SAFE provisions, and they've added this provision for lost revenue, again, to try to step people down a little bit with their losses over a period of time. So we'll be working with the Western Kentucky districts immediately. We'll do a separate webcast for them, but I wanted to share this with our Eastern Kentucky districts because I do think when the General Assembly reconvenes, they may consider this same type of relief for our Eastern Kentucky districts. Western Kentucky is already realizing those losses and are being able to provide some data to support that. So I think once they start seeing the same type of evidence from our Eastern Kentucky districts, they will likely come back and try to address that at a later date. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Just wanted to make sure that you were aware that was there for Western Kentucky and maybe to be available to our Eastern Kentucky districts soon. The last thing I wanted to share, I didn't mention, I don't think, the application for the $40 million pot for Eastern Kentucky that is managed by KDE. That application is online. It is on our webpage right now. So we'll pop that into the chat. And also we will make that available to you when Tony does the kind of the notes from today's meeting. She'll make sure that that gets included in that communication as well. I'll wrap up now. And I think the next steps, we wanted to make sure that we heard any questions or concerns from you about the funding or the operations, give you an opportunity to ask any questions if you have those now. If you don't have them now, we do understand your time is precious. You're doing lots of things right now, continuing to start school and operate schools. Please don't hesitate to send your questions to either myself, Robin Morley, or to Jessie for the materials that she's gone over today. And we'll be happy to try to answer any of those for you.
Great, and I'll just pop in and with our next steps on our next huddles, I think I agree with the commissioner. Just want to hear from maybe some of our affected superintendents. Do these continue to be helpful for you, and would you like us to continue? Okay. I'm getting a lot of head nods. So yeah, we're happy to do that. So essentially it'll be this time every Thursday. So 11:30, and we'll get those put on your calendars. And then, if we decide, we get to the end of September or whatever, or October, whenever it is, we can just cancel the meetings. At least that way it's on your calendars. So real quick before we leave, I did want to give a shout out to Jackson County. I'm not sure if they are on today, but we are about to publish a story about a really amazing thing that their students are doing at ATC and building sheds for people who have been impacted. So we're gonna share that one out on social media. We just posted it. So thank you for that. And I guess that wraps us up, Robin.
Hey, Tony, I did want to just point out in the chat, Robin Morley has graciously posted House Bill 1. So you have easy access to that. That contains all the provisions that we've gone through today, and also has put in the link for the East Kentucky State Aid funding for emergencies. That's the application that would come to KDE for any of those 3 kind of broad pots of eligible expenses. So that's out there already for you all to take a look at.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all you're doing.